Hey everyone, how you doing? Tundra Super Late Model Series in the midst of a very long off season. We can't wait to get going. My name is Matt Panier, and I am here with Tundra Super Late Model Series champion Riley Stenjem. Riley, take two. A lot of people don't know that we've interviewed or we've recorded this interview once, and it went really, really well. You had a lot of great things to say, but the recording didn't quite happen. So we'll try it again here. And the first question I asked you is got to be the obvious question on everybody's mind right now. Has the championship sunk in? What is it going to take for it to sink in with you being the 2021 Tundra Super Late Model Series champion?
Yeah, I definitely don't really think it's sunk in yet. I mean, just being the off season and that, haven't been back to another Tundra race. The banquet, I think, helped it a little bit, but I really don't think it'll sink in until we get to Kakana in May and get to have that different colored banner on my windshield and get to race against all my competitors, get introduced as the past champion. I think that's kind of when it'll really sink in for me.
When we look back through the year and we talk about banner events and really what puts you on the map, and to me, that one stuck out as Marshfield because it was a track that you obviously weren't too familiar with, just your second ever time there. And it was such a dominating performance that you put on in that race. Was it something that you expected to do, or even in the back of your mind, if you had hoped and dreamed that that was going to be the perfect day, were you still a little bit blown away by what you and your team accomplished on that day?
Yeah, really, we were. Obviously, so this car we purchased was an old Carson Quap old-time Majeski car, and it had a lot of success at Marshfield. I believe Ty won 2 or 3 races with it at Marshfield, and the same amount of starts. I don't think he ever lost in it. And Carson, I think it was his first race ever up in Wisconsin with Toby's crew, and I think he finished second. So I definitely had a lot to live up to with the past success of the car we were running at Marshfield. But yeah, we unloaded. We were trying something, and it really wasn't very good when we unloaded. And we thrashed on it all day and got it all right, made it in the show on time. I believe we qualified 9th or 10th, somewhere in there. And the heat race got it even better. And then we made another change right before the feature with the help of Ty and Toby, and it really came to life. I think we started 5th and we were in the lead within the first 10 laps and really never looked back. The car held on really good, and we were able to hold off anybody that challenged us. So yeah, with the way the day started, it was definitely a big surprise to us, but we were really happy with the result, and we felt really good after that Marshfield race that we were able to contend for wins moving forward in the Tundra Series.
You talk about having notes and having an idea of where you should be when you get to a racetrack, but when you start going to some places, it still has to be difficult, right? I mean, you can go there with all the notes in the world, but just to not have the seat time and to not have the laps out there, how do you as a driver, even with a perfect setup and all the right notes, how do you as a driver learn how to attack a track? And then not only learn how to attack a track, but learn how to attack it in the course of a race day, because it's not, just going out there and setting one fast time. It's qualifying, it's a heat race, it's the feature, it's finding your way to the front, it's learning how to pass. How do you attack something like that inside the cockpit of a race car?
Yeah, to go off of that, like you said, Tundra, we don't really get a lot of practice, not like some of the other big super late model series where they practice for 2 or 3 days and then we race. Tundra, we generally get 2 or 3 15-minute sessions and we're right into qualifying and racing. So really you have to have your ducks in a row before you get to the racetrack. And like you talked about notes, we had a pretty good notebook to lean on with Ty and Toby, their previous notes on this car. And that really got us close to unloaded a lot of places. But as a driver, you really got to watch videos. I like to watch videos. I'll go watch in cars, out of cars from the racetracks before I go there. Some of them I'd had previous experience at, like Norway or Golden Sands, Marshfield. I had a little bit of previous experience at the Dells, but some of them I didn't have a whole lot of experience at either. So just going back and watching as much video as I can, remembering things from when I was there before, and yeah, just trying to be as prepared as you can in the shop and as a driver is how you're able to be successful at a place you don't have a lot of laps at.
What really catapulted you into the title conversation was that win at Marshfield, but it all, just like anybody else, could have gone awry from there, right? And what you had to do to back that up is the next race was your home track at Jefferson, where you made your debut. You made your debut in the top 3, 2 seasons ago. And this one was a little bit more of a wild event, but you really were able to hold yourself strong in that race. So after you win a race, what does it mean for you to go back to somewhere with a ton of familiarity like you had at Jefferson?
Yeah, it really gives you just that extra jolt of confidence, having won a race in the super late so far. I think we had ran 4 races up to that point in our new car, the Toby car, and we had finished 2 of them and they were both in the top 5, and the other 2, we had a couple mechanical issues and DNF. So knew we had a lot of speed in our car, and then going back to a place that we had experience at, like I do with Jefferson, it really gave us a lot of confidence. We unloaded. We didn't have the greatest tires due to the tire shortage, so we didn't really know where we were at in practice. But when we put our tires on to qualify, we were able to set fast time. And from the night there on, the night went pretty well. We missed the stagger a little bit in the feature, I believe, so we were a little bit tight, but we were able to get up to second and have a shot at it at the end. And I feel like just having that extra jolt of confidence lets you make moves that you wouldn't normally make, or just you have a little extra bit of confidence behind the wheel. And having the confidence from the previous win as well as the previous races at Jefferson, it put us in contention, and we had a shot at the end. Just the restart didn't go our way. So yeah, Jefferson, having a win before you get there, it all builds confidence.
You mentioned the tire shortage a little bit, and from our end, the tire shortage was not a fun thing either. We didn't want to have to hold practice tires from all of you guys and all the things that we had to do this year to get creative. And shout out to Hoosier for being able to get us what they could, but it made race days just that much more challenging this year, didn't it? And how do you as a team adjust if maybe you're used to going out on a better set of tires, a new set of tires, or a practice set of tires that you use for 2 or 3 races, and you just didn't have that luxury this year? How did you guys adjust to that?
Yeah, it was really tough, especially for us. We weren't racing weekly super late models at all, so it made it tough for us to be able to go and buy tires. People that were racing weekly super late models at Wausau or Plover, Kakana or Slinger, for example, they had a little bit more ability to go and buy practice tires. But like us, not racing weekly at all, we really weren't able to get our hands on a set of practice tires till I don't think the middle of the season. So we were kind of just having a hodgepodge sets together, putting 2 sets of old front race tires together just to try to make a decent practice set. And it really made it hard for you to get a read on your race car when you're having mismatched sets like that. So generally, if you have a 2 or 3 week old set of practice tires and they've been a practice tire their whole life, they'll hold up pretty well and they'll repeat pretty well. But when you're using mismatched race tires with different amounts of laps on them, it's really hard to know where you're at. And then your sizes are changing all the time too. So you have to adjust your setup for that just due to the heights changing and things like that. So it's a lot. It's way more than it would be if you're able to just buy a set of practice tires, run those for 2 to 3 races, and then buy your set of race tires, because the sizes will be a lot closer. So just really won't throw as much of a wrench into your setup.
We talked about your championship moments this year, and I think for me, aside from your win at Marshfield, your championship moment was obviously we'll get to the Dells because there was a big one there too, but one of them that really stuck out for me this year was Golden Sands, and how late in the race you continually decided to use that outside line. When we were watching, and anybody that tried it, it just didn't work. They would go out there and they'd lose 3 spots, or they'd be lucky to shuffle back in line about where they were. But late in the race, you were able to make it work and come out with a top 3 finish. What was going through your mind in those final restarts, and ultimately what led you to decide to keep trying the outside line, even though it didn't seem to be working for anyone?
Yeah, Golden Sands, especially this year. Some days it's more of a 2-groove racetrack from the videos I've watched, but this year, for whatever reason, it was a very bottom dominant racetrack. Our car was pretty loose too, so that made it even harder on the outside, just because we didn't have the drive to be able to get on the gas as early as we needed to keep our momentum up. So yeah, but going back to that, we'd been running 7th about the whole race. There was kind of cautions intermittent throughout the whole race, and we'd restart 7th or be in line 7th for the cone, and it ended up being plus 2 or 3 rows every time on the cone. So it was really a no-brainer for us not to take it. I believe we were still behind in the points at that time, so we really needed to make some points up on Casey if we wanted to have a chance going to the Dells with him being so good there. And really, we had to be even or ahead of him in points, probably, in my opinion, to have a chance at it at the Dells. So yeah, we just kept taking it, and finally on the last restart, I think I started 4th behind Devoy, learned a little something behind him, and was able to get down into 3rd. And it really catapulted us to be able to finish in the top 3 there with the restart with 10 to go and getting down.
You know, like what you mentioned about Golden Sands, that racetrack is ever changing. Every time we go there, it's you know, bottom heavy, and then there's guys that can make it work at the top, and sometimes it's two groove, and sometimes a little slick out there. But one thing that we always know about Golden Sands is that it's a very big track when it comes to momentum. As far as controlling your car, you know, guys talk that they never even get half throttle at that racetrack, and I know for you, you hadn't had a ton of experience there. So what is it like attacking a racetrack like that, where you can't just go out and put your foot to the floor and hope it sticks going into the turns and anything like that? And you really have to go and finesse a race car. How do you learn how to go after a racetrack like that?
Well, yeah, I think it really just goes back, Matt, to like me growing up at Jefferson and it being a technical racetrack. Golden Sands, it's kind of line sensitive, but if you're able to put your left front tire right on the curb without bouncing it off the curb, it's worth a lot of time. And also Jefferson, it teaches you a lot of throttle control, just being flat and not having a whole lot of grip off the turn too. So a place like Golden Sands, it's kind of both of that. You have to be able to hit your marks and you have to have the throttle control to be able to not light the tires up when you go down the straightaway. Because if you're going to be good at Golden Sands, you really can't be any sort of tight. Your car has to get through the center and you end up sacrificing drive to be able to get through the center. So you can't get wide open.
So from Golden Sands, obviously we go to Dells, and Dells is just a wild race, right? It's a wild race day. It's not just a race. It's qualifying. It's getting into the dash. It's positioning yourself throughout that entire feature event to try to win the championship. Take me through the day. What goes through your head? How do you approach a day like that in the shop? And, you know, being someone who's seeking your first super late model championship in just your second year, is there a bunch of pressure going into that particular championship Sunday for you?
Yes and no. Well, first of all, we'll go about like the shop. So yeah, earlier in the year, we ran 2 or 3 Alive for 5 races. We had qualified pretty well at both of them, but just hadn't raced well or been able to put together a whole race. We had a mechanical failure at the one, and we just ended up being too free at the other one. So we didn't have the finishes really, or the confidence in our race car at the Dells. So we kind of went with a little bit different setup to the final race of the Dells, just talking with Ty and Toby and just trying to make a little bit of a change to get me a little more comfortable there. And we unloaded in practice and it was all right, but then we made the dash and it was pretty loose. So we made a change for the feature, something that we hadn't ran all year, and it definitely paid off. But going back to the pressure, I talked to Dale Nottestead after I lost my championship my second year at Jefferson. We were in the points hunt, and I ended up kind of beating myself mentally. And Dale pulled me aside that night after the championship, and he said, you have to lose one before you can win one. And I really think he was right, because I kind of went into this one trying to keep all those thoughts out of my head and tried to not let myself beat myself. We'd really had everything. If the race went our way and we were able to have a good enough car to run with Casey, there was really no reason why we were going to lose the championship, and we just couldn't beat ourselves. So yeah, we went into the race and the car was good enough. Me and Casey were pretty much nose to tail the whole race. And to my knowledge of the point situation, barring any bonus points for laps led or most laps led, I either had to beat Casey or have no cars between us. And the caution came out at the end, went right after he had gotten a car between us, and it kind of gave us a second life. So it was pretty cool. We were able to follow him past Litchfield and Fenhouse and secure the championship. It was pretty cool and something that you don't get to do every day in your second year in a super late.
So I have to ask, you know, you see Casey take that spot, put the car between you, basically put himself back in the point lead. What happens inside the race car? I mean, I know, you know, I'm not a race car driver, right? I'm not an athlete or anything, but when I'm playing like FIFA and I go down a goal late in the game and I know I got to tie it, you know, I start white knuckling on that controller. So what happens inside the race car? Because the adrenaline just got to be pumping, seeing that Casey put that car between you and knowing that you just have a limited amount of time to try to get yourself back to that championship. How does that play out?
Yeah, so up until like 10, 15 laps before that, we had been kind of right on Casey's bumper, only like 2 or 3 car lengths behind him. And then we got into some lap traffic and he got through it a little bit better than us. And I kind of heated my tires up a little bit through lap traffic. So he got away. Litchfield was fading a little bit and he got around Litchfield. I believe it was with 15 to go or so. And they were about a half a straightaway to a straightaway out in front of us. And if I wanted to catch Litchfield, we had a pretty loose car up to that point. I just had to be smooth and try to cool my stuff down. And if I was going to catch him without a caution, it was going to be within the last few laps. So I just had to be smooth and try not to overdrive it, because if I overdrove it, I wasn't going to have a chance to catch him anyway. And I was pretty proud of myself. I was able to keep calm and cool and not do that up until that caution came out. When the caution came out, everybody got their stuff able to cool off, and it allowed me to get back in the hunt.
Yeah, you talk about the guy that you were scrapping with in this championship, of course, that being Casey Johnson. And, his history and your history are very similar. Casey, it does look like he's going to be back for a Tundra championship for a 5th this season. You'll be coming back seeking your 2nd straight. But obviously the one common tie between the two of you is where you guys started, and that's Jefferson Speedway, the tricky little bull ring quarter mile. Look at Jacob Nottestad, who's up and coming as a super late model racer as well. He gets his start there. What is it about that place that's just producing such quality, not just, super late model drivers, but late model drivers who go other places, and just quality drivers all around?
Yeah, Jefferson's competition when I was growing up was second to none, and there's still a lot of really good cars there. But you race against good competition every week at a really technical racetrack. 1 and 2 is just like Bowman Gray flat, and you have to be within 6 inches of your mark on your left front. Otherwise, you slide up the hill and you don't make the corner, and you lose a lot of time. And then you go into 3 and 4, and it's a progressively banked corner where you run the outside. So you get used to running a flat track and a banked track, and then you get used to hammering the gas pretty hard off of 4, and you get used to having a lot of finesse to keep your car hooked up off of 2. So it really just makes you a pretty diverse race car driver and prepares you to go to a lot of different places where the corners are more symmetrical, because there's a flat corner in the one end and a bank corner in the other end. So it really prepares you to go anywhere.
Obviously, unfortunately, Tundra and Jefferson just couldn't work out a date this year. It basically just came down to, we have a couple calendar days, you have a couple calendar days, and they just didn't match up. But, we'll try to get back there in 2023. We'd definitely love to do that. And another thing I think about Jefferson is the tight racing that you guys have there. There's so much side-by-side, and one line changes where it's good on the inside of 1 and 2, but you want to be on the outside in 3 and 4. Does that prepare you for side-by-side racing at other racetracks, or is everyone just a little bit different? Racing side-by-side at Kaukauna obviously got to be a bit different, or does it just sort of feel the same to you?
Well, I think Jefferson it's a quarter mile, so everything's going to be a little bit more bunched together than a place like Madison or Kaukauna that's a half mile bigger. But yeah, it just kind of prepares you to race in tight quarters. Everybody's pretty bunched up. A lot of times you end up 3 wide, or you end up 3 wide in the middle, or 3 wide on the outside. And you have to be able to control your race car in those situations. And I think just having a lot of experience doing that does really prepare you to go to other places where if you get into tight quarter situations like that, because you're not going to really find anything tighter than going to Jefferson.
So, we've been talking about Jefferson. Obviously, this year, what tags in its place is our trip to Norway Speedway up in the north. That'll be our 3rd race of the year this year on July the 16th. Haven't been there since 2014. A lot of the Tundra guys that are there now are with us now weren't part of the equation at the time. What do you know about Norway, and how do you prepare for a racetrack that you've never been to before?
Yeah, the only really thing I know about Norway is from videos I've watched and talking to people. From everything I've seen, it's pretty flat racetrack. It looks like it can be kind of 2 groove, but also it doesn't look like it has a whole lot of grip, and that's kind of what I've heard from a lot of people. But yeah, it's a tight racetrack like Jefferson, flat in both ends, kind of similar to Jefferson 1 and 2. But yeah, there's a lot of tough competition up there too. Mondike's been pretty good up there. Butts has been pretty good up there. So if those guys both run the Tundra race, they're going to be tough to beat. And preparing for a racetrack like that, just kind of got to go back on old notes. Talk to Ty and Toby, and I believe our baseline should be pretty close when we unload up there. And yeah, just get used to the track and those short practices we have and make the most of it, because that's kind of what we did when I was going to a lot of the tracks for the first time in the last couple of years on Tundra. And I don't hopefully think it'll be any different when we go to Norway in July.
You mentioned Ty a couple of times. Obviously, Ty Majeski ran some Tundra, did a whole bunch of the Midwest Tour around here, and now a Snowball Derby winner. And now moving on to the NASCAR Truck Series as well. But he's kept his finger on the pulse in this area, not just coming back here and racing, but you see him in the pits from time to time as well, helping people out. What does that say about Ty? And it's not just you that he helps out a little bit as well, but what does that mean for someone like you to kind of have him around to lean on a little bit as a resource?
Yeah, to have somebody of that caliber to lean on as a resource is huge. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of experience, and he's won more super late model races and late model races than I've started in my career. So to have somebody with that much experience to lean on is huge. And then about him helping people, he's a racer. He works in the shop at ThorSport every day, and he just loves racing and loves to be a part of it, even if he's not in the car driving himself. So to have somebody like that is huge, and it says a lot about him that he likes to come back, even though that he's racing NASCAR these days.
And another big similarity that I know the two of you have is the iRacing format as well. And I've talked to Ty about this before. We actually did an article in Circle Track magazine about it before iRacing really, really blew up. But Ty obviously has been the #1 guy for a while. How does that really help? I think there are a lot of race fans out there that are probably pretty curious into thinking, does iRacing really help? You take a look at like a William Byron, who's pretty famous for, doing well in iRacing, and he learns the tracks before they go. But, I look back at Kakana and I think, you set fast time there the first time, and Andy Monday had mentioned to me, he's like, yeah, that's my iRacing buddy. But iRacing, Kakana's not on there, right? So what does that do for you inside the cockpit, and how does that actually make you a better driver? Because I've heard from drivers that it really does. What does it do to actually help you inside the race car?
Yeah, it does a lot. So obviously in a real car, you have the seat of the pants feel. In iRacing, you really don't have that. So you kind of have to use your other senses to try to figure out what the race car is doing. And I feel like that kind of gives you an edge on the competition, having that almost sixth sense of knowing what the race car is going to do before you feel it. And I think that helps. And then also just repetition. Us asphalt racers, we're lucky if we get to race 30 times a year. I know the dirt guys, they race 90, 100 times a year, but us asphalt guys, we don't race that much. So for a guy like me, if I'm able to race 100 or 200 times a year on iRacing, I feel like that gives me an edge on somebody who doesn't and only races the 20 or so times a year in real life. So just having that repetition, being in racing situations more than other people. Then also it helps a little bit too, understanding setups. I learned a lot growing up about setups just when I was racing legend cars, knowing that if I pulled right rear spring out of the car, it would tighten it up, or if I added cross, it would tighten it up, or things like that. Obviously, you can't take a setup sheet. Say I can't take a setup sheet for my super late model and put it into iRacing and have it react the same. But if you, like I said, change the right rear spring, go down on the rate, it'll tighten the car up. So the adjustments kind of act the same. You can learn a lot about setup there, and just kind of understanding how to dial yourself in, I think, is really beneficial in real life as well.
And I think that kind of leads into, the next thing that sort of sets you apart too is your engineering background. So, you get to fiddle with those sorts of things on iRacing and know exactly what is going to help a car do what, but maybe not to the extent you would on your race car. How much more helpful is it for you to be inside the car and to just feel certain things and know, hey, I've got to go change my right rear spring because I can feel it doing this, or I need to take a little bit of toe out because I can feel this. How does that go through your head? And are you making those calculated adjustments while you're driving as well? Or you have to kind of turn that off inside your head, get into race car driver mode, and then reset yourself once you get outside the car back into engineer and setup mode?
Yeah, so like you said, yeah, I'm currently a senior in engineering school. So I've seen a lot of the things in the classroom, and it's really cool to be able to see things that you do in the classroom and have them apply to your real life race car, like the angles or springs or shocks or things like that. But yeah, being in the car, you just really try to feel it out. And then you get out of the car and you debrief with your guys, and you're able to just feel like a better understanding of how the physics behind what you're changing is actually working. And I feel like having that engineering background gives you a little edge on the competition who may not have that background. So to be able to, like I said, to apply things from the classroom to your race car, I feel like is just another advantage that being an engineer has while racing.
And what that also ties into, obviously, is the Kawicki Driver Development Program. Alan Kawicki, with his background in working on his own cars and really kind of an engineering background as well. I know you've been in the running for this a couple of times, and Tom Roberts has had some attention on you, especially after you won at Marshfield. you're going to be taking another shot at it here in 2022. I mean, what would the Quick Driver Development Program mean for you and for your family and for your team to be a part of it?
Yeah, the Kawiki program would be huge. We've applied for it, I believe, the last 3 years. In 2020, before the pandemic, I felt like we had a pretty good shot of getting in that year. We had a pretty good end of 2019 and had some momentum going our way. The pandemic came, they shut down the program, and we didn't really have a very good 2020. We believe we won one race, set a couple fast times, but just kind of had a down year for us. We came back this past year and won our first super late model race, set a couple fast times, and were able to win a championship. And I feel like that'll kind of put us back on the map to hopefully get in that program this year. They announced the semifinalists tomorrow, so that's the first step if we're a semifinalist. But yeah, if we're able to make the final 7, that would be huge for us. Really, the Kawiki program is a great way to allow a regional team like us that has the budget to only race regionally to still get our name out on the national scale through the program and race against people on the national scale while just racing your own races. So that would be huge for us. And then also this year, it's the 30th anniversary of Allen's championship. So they're redoing his Underbird from 92. So to be able to be a part of something like that and getting the recognition out for them to be able to do something like that would be cool, as well as giving back to the community and doing all of that through the program. I feel like it just gives you a good platform to be able to use your racing to do something good. So to be a part of the program would be huge for us, not only financially, but to get my name out there a little bit more, and as well as do something good for the community.
And you mentioned, what the Quick Driver Development Program does, and I like that you brought that up, is it really gives you a chance to get your name out there if you're just running regionally and you don't have the funds or the ability or the time to go and run out in some of those bigger races. But you take a look at the Midwest's history with the Quick Driver Development Program, Ty winning that first one. Reagan May and Steve April were part of that program. Alex Prunty, a past champion, Justin Mondyke ran for a couple of years, and now Luke Fenhouse really just kind of dominated the program this year. Do you feel like being in the Midwest, being a Wisconsin guy, is that a little bit of a leg up, especially considering, Alan Kawicki did so much here in the state of Wisconsin, being from Wisconsin, and having old TR kind of keeping his eyes around here, because I know he loves watching Tundra racing. He loves watching everything that's happening in the Midwest.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like sometimes down in the South, the Midwest gets kind of stigmatized almost, that they don't really see how much talent is up here and how many good race teams are up here. It's just a little bit different style of racing. Down in the South, it's a lot of kids trying to just develop for NASCAR, but up here it's blue collar workers that just love to go racing, and they love racing. They've been racing for 30, 40 years. There's a lot of family history here. And really that means there's a lot of competition here, just with how much family history and things like that. So yeah, the Midwest, in my opinion, is a hotbed for late model racing. And I feel like the Kawicki program and the people on that board understand that a little bit. And I feel like when they see somebody who's having success in the Midwest, it does kind of give them another notch in their belt when they're going to select their final 7 or select the winner of the program.
You know what I mean? The Quick Driver Development Program isn't just a reflection upon a race car driver, but on a team, because I know they really put a lot of emphasis on family-owned teams, much like yourself. Your mom is like your biggest #1 super fan, which is fantastic. I love seeing her at the races, all excited. Obviously, your dad helps you out a ton as well. For your team, what has this whole run been like over the last couple of years? Being close to being in the Kawicki contention, now being a Tundra champion, seeing that first super late model win, it's got to be fantastic for you guys as a family. Does it feel like you guys have accomplished everything that you set out when you guys started this as a family team?
Yeah, so I believe this will be our 10th year racing together since we started racing go-karts. And I definitely don't think any of us saw when we bought our first go-kart that it would end up this way, where we'd have a super late model and a late model and be racing 20, 30 races a year, competing for wins like we do. So yeah, I don't think we didn't really have any goals in mind. We were just trying to do something fun as a family. I had always loved driving things when I was little, and I just got more and more competitive in it and started to love it more and more, and we've just kept moving up. Like I said, we don't really have a camper or go do a whole lot outside of racing during the summer. It's kind of what we do as a family during the summer. And not many families get to spend 30 weekends a year together doing something that they all kind of put a combined effort into. So yeah, it's a family effort for sure. I'm just the driver. My family, they've sacrificed a lot of time and money to help me do this. And it's awesome to be able to reward them with a championship like we were able to do this year.
Turning your attention to 2022, you'll be back to defend the championship. What are your thoughts coming into the season? We had chatted a little bit yesterday and had talked, this year with Casey out and with you coming back to defend the championship, the target is on you, right? The changing of the guard has happened. Do you thrive on something like that? How does it feel to, they always say to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now you're the man to beat.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty cool. Obviously, like you said, Casey's not going to be back and we're the past champions. So I'd love to think that we're the car to beat. But there's a lot of other good competition in Tundra. Monbeck had a couple off races. Otherwise, I think he would have been right in the championship hunt. Brock Heinrich, guys like that. There's a lot of good competition in Tundra. So we're going to have to be on our A game. But I feel like we're going to be a lot better prepared at a lot of the racetracks we go to, with Norway being the only new one. We built a notebook over the past year on this Toby car, because a lot of the places we were unloading, we didn't get to go test it, really any of them. So we were kind of unloading and kind of building our notebook through the night. Now we have where we ended at all these places and we can unload there, and I feel like we can refine it, and I feel like we'll be stronger than last year. So as long as we can keep out of trouble in a 5-race deal, it's what it takes, is to be consistent, win a couple races, get in the dashes. And if we're able to do that, I feel like we'll have a good chance at it at the end of this year as well.
So you win the Tundra Championship, your name starts to get on the map now a bit. Obviously that's going to start opening up some avenues, or opening up the idea for some opportunities for you guys to maybe do a little bit more. Obviously NASCAR is the goal, but what's the goal 2, 3, 4 years down the line? Is it to try to move on to the next level? Is it to try to do some bigger things? You just want to grab some more championships and get them under your belt? What are you and your team looking for here in the near future?
Yeah, so right now we're obviously just focused on 2023, and hopefully we can get in that Kawicki program and try to chase that this year. But if we're able to get our name out there a little bit more, I'd love to hopefully find the funding to go race nationally at the super late model level. To be a guy like Bubba Pollard or Ty Majeski or Casey Johnson that can go anywhere in the country and be competitive, I feel like would be really cool. There's a lot of historic races and historic racetracks across the country that I'd love to be a part of. So obviously NASCAR is the goal growing up. That's everybody's goal when they start racing, but financially sometimes that's pretty hard, and I'd love to be able to just, in the end, in the next couple of years, be racing super late models at the national level, or at least hitting a couple of those bigger shows. I think that'd be a good goal for us. And then if something more happens, that'd be great too.
Got one of those bigger races on the bucket list yet?
Yeah, my 2 tracks that I really want to race at are New Smyrna and Five Flags in Pensacola. I've been to both of them to watch. I've turned a lot of laps at both of them on iRacing, and I feel like they'd both be really cool and really historic, and it'd just be cool to be a part of Speed Weeks or the Snowball Derby.
Yeah, everybody wants that Snowball Derby, don't they? Man, I'll tell you what, that's a big one. So, we talked about racing and iRacing and all those things, and we can, see you're in your apartment there on campus and doing your school thing. When you're not schooling or racing or iRacing, what is Riley Stenjem doing to fill his time up?
Yeah, like I said, during the summer, it's kind of racing, but I've got other free time during the summer. So we like to go hang out with my girlfriend, do things with my friends, go out to eat, go hang out, have a couple drinks, go fishing, things like that. I go hunting when I can with my dad. I enjoy turkey hunting. It's just kind of hard for me with racing in the spring and being in school. It's kind of hard for me to do that the last couple of years. That's my favorite type of hunting to do. So I like to do a little bit of that. Like I said, just ride ATVs, anything. I like doing things outside, riding ATVs, side by side, snowmobiles, and then like hunting, fishing, things like that.
Best fishing story?
Well, yeah, so we talked about this yesterday, but yeah, I go with my buddy Stevie, and his big thing fishing, he likes to go cast under people's docks, and that's where he kind of just finds fish. So I'm not the best fisherman, and I end up getting my line tangled all sorts of different places, and it kind of happens quite a bit, and he ends up just laughing at me and helping me get her untangled. But yeah, that's usually how my fishing trips go. I still enjoy it though.
Yeah, and as I told you, I'm pretty good at catching the tiniest perch that you ever did see. So I don't know. I haven't done any ice fishing yet this year, so maybe I better get that one under my belt. But anyway, Riley, thanks for your time. Much appreciated it. Second time around, and hopefully this one takes. But, we're definitely looking forward to seeing you again this year. And is there anything in particular that you're really looking forward to in 2022 when you come back to try to defend that championship?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to get back to Kakana. It was our first race with our Toby car, and we kind of had a few little growing pains with it during the feature. And I feel like if we can get that car a little bit better there, I'd love to have a little bit better run at Kakana and be in contention for a win. So yeah, first race, May, I'm really looking forward to Kakana for sure.
All right. Well, I don't know if Kakana is looking forward to you because, like I said, you raised some eyebrows the first time you came there and set that fast time. People don't do that. So everybody is now very intrigued to see what Riley Stenjem has up his sleeve again. But we'll be looking forward to seeing that. So, Riley, thanks again. I know you're doing some testing right now there at school, so best of luck with that. And we'll catch up with you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. That's Riley Stenjem. He's our 2021 champion. He's coming back in 2022 looking for the title again. More information, you can find us on Facebook, Tundra Super Late Models, or find us online, tundrasuperlates.com.